Thank you for joining Lifestyle Unplugged with Monica.
And Lauren.
And today, Chris Dorociak is here to join us. Super excited to have you on, Chris. And Chris, can you share who you are, what's your background, and really, you don't have to tell people why we wanted you on here because we can tell them why, unless you want to. But I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you. So I started real estate consulting about 20 years ago. And so I've seen a lot, but I recently founded a firm called Paramount Economics, which is my independent consulting practice, focused on lifestyle communities and what developers, investors, and builders really need to understand, how to build value, how to create something special, and form something where all of the pieces are coming together, becoming more valuable than each individual component, and really creating that lifestyle that I think we all know and love, especially on this podcast. So, I can get into my background a little bit, and I had a pretty fun dream job coming out of grad school, out of a very not so fun major, according to most people. So as an undergrad and graduate student, I was an economics major and then got a master's degree in economics, which I really found fascinating because the philosophy of markets and, what the underlying fundamentals are just become very interesting to study in a variety of ways. But you could literally do anything with it. And so I started to Google search when I had finished up my master's program and started to cold call people to figure out what they were doing, which, by the way, is a totally inefficient way to get into any job, but hey, it worked. And so my first job, which was in the early 2000s, was joining a small real estate consulting firm that was called Peterson Economics. That was the Google thing that I think picked up when I was doing my search. But we focused on resorts and second home communities and providing strategic advisory, projections, market analysis to those groups. And so I got into that lifestyle component really early on and have carried through kind of the core philosophy of building value through lifestyle ever since.
Love it.
And so that's really what got me interested in it. And I've just been so fascinated with, how people live, what makes life better, and housing being of course, a core experience of humanity that we as people who are interested in lifestyle, that's something that we want to harness, right? That's the joy of living. And so that's really where I come from in a very broad sense.
I love it.
It's cool that you got into it so early on.
And I've seen a lot. So the funny thing about doing something really early and sticking with it is that you go through a couple of cycles. So when I started, it was early 2000s, pre-financial crisis. Everything was selling, right? It was sort of the equivalent to what we saw recently during the pandemic. And it was that prior cycle. So all of my economics brain of oh yeah, you raise the prices and the sales rates tend to slow down. Well, that didn't happen. People were just buying anything. And then it changed, through the financial crisis, and I worked my way out of that into, kind of culminating in the peak that we had recently, followed by the period we're in today. And so it's been just a fascinating, front row view of the global, local, national economies, housing markets being a huge part of that. And so not only from an interesting lifestyle perspective, but a geeky economist perspective, it's been a fun ride.
That's awesome. I come to it from the sociology major. So it's just interesting because it's fascinating in a totally different way.
Yes. I mean, we are in a very broad sense, we're students of humanity.
So what I'm fascinated about really with your, 20 plus years of experience is that you've been focused on lifestyle communities for so long. I mean, longer than majority of people have been. We're just really seeing this big wave of lifestyle in the last few years really start knocking on people's doors and saying you really need to have this in your communities. So I find it fascinating that you've been studying that in those types of communities for so long. So what have you learned and seen really from when you first started, what a lifestyle community looked like then and today?
It's a great question because I would agree that there's been a big focus recently into this lifestyle narrative. And what I found really fascinating, and I still do this today, is I found fascinating that when I got started, it was really around resorts. And the resort developers were so focused on this because that's what makes a resort really special. And I'll give you an example of that. I mentioned my dream job of coming out of graduate school. And like one of my first projects was going to Hawaii to advise the Mauna Lani resort development on condominium and hotel dynamics and strategy. And so I'm like, okay, this is great. I'm going to the Big Island. I'm like, this is one of my first projects. And Mauna Lani, for people who haven't been there, is this very well-established, beautiful oceanfront resort on the Big Island. Mauna Kea is another one, just big, iconic, wonderful places to go. And because of their age, they got the best beaches. Like, if you ever go to the Big Island, go to Mauna Kea. It's an incredible beach. They got there first. They picked the best beach, built the hotel. And then there's this, so I'm doing all of this traveling along the coast, and there's a resort called Hualalai that's closer to the airport, not on the best site because Mauna Lani and Mauna Kea, they already got there. So I was thinking, well, I need to go see this place. I've heard about it. This was kind of early 2000s, so it had been around. It was developed in the 90s. But they did something totally, totally different. And instead of this like big monolithic hotel right on the beach, instead of kind of the clusters of normal beachfront and ocean view homes, they had this like these meandering pathways, these torch lit little areas to walk around and sit, low slung building, hipped roofs, lava walls. It was just magical. And the prices really showed it too. I mean, it was a Four Seasons, so it was a very nice hotel, but it was like the Four Seasons was just the average daily rates, the occupancy were off the charts. The home prices within this resort were, double, triple of what you would see outside of it on arguably better sites outside the gates. And so it just spoke to me in a way that like really driving home the whole place, right, creates the value. And then all of those connections that tie together create the lifestyle. I use so I use that sort of philosophy has been in the resort world for a long time, bringing that into master plan communities, primary housing, where you can really make something magical too.
Definitely. I'm sorry you had to spend time in Hawaii. I mean,
Yeah.
geez,
Like right
poor
into
thing.
out of
Yeah.
the gate too.
Poor thing. Like, it must have been tough. It's been really tough.
It was a rough, yeah.
Love it.
There's dangers to setting the bar that high because then you end up, you're like, well, I guess this is what I'm doing for my life because why not?
It looks like a
that's
good
cool.
life path. So, what I find interesting is, and I guess explain to us, when you go into these resorts, what are you helping them figure out how they can get the maximum for their room rates through lifestyle? When they bring you in, what's their purpose when they bring you in?
Yeah, it's interesting because there's a qualitative and quantitative aspect to it. So typically the projects that I'll work on are these, I would call them complicated projects.
Okay.
They're master plans, and they can be in the resort industry where it's a hotel or lodging of some kind, almost always some for sale real estate, whether that's lots or homes,
Okay.
and then some group of amenities that's kind of tying all of those pieces together. So even, you look at the master planned community example, Pinnacle and Meridian with Brighton would be an example of a master plan community that's bringing these types of components together in the primary home space. But generally, the clients that I have, they want to understand at the very end of the day, what prices or room rates can we achieve? How can we maximize those? While also, what are our absorption or our sales rates as well? And in the
Okay.
case of hotels, that's typically around occupancy. So you're kind of balancing these things of price and sales rates. But when you get to that final quantitative answer, there's a lot of like qualitative aspects that go along with it. How does the community feel? Is it, does the lifestyle present itself in a superior way to other comps in the area, or are there even examples nationwide that can help enlighten us as to like what the value is for these different components?
So that takes us into market research, right? Like, and Lauren and I have talked a lot about this, is the market research that you have to do in order to be able to provide that for your client. So can you share with us, what that process is? And because what we want to know from a lifestyle standpoint is maybe not as intricate as what you do, but we'd like to hear the intricacies, because I think it will help us understand how you help your clients come to those conclusions. But I think from a lifestyle standpoint, we really want to know how can we do better surveys, because we're not trained in surveys. We're just told figure out what your residents want. And so we create our own surveys. And I know there's a method to the madness of creating a great survey to get good responses. So can you share that with us?
I will. Yeah, and I was an economics student, so coming out, I really was just trying to gather information and fill in the information that we needed for different projects. And so my experience with talking to people and doing survey work and understanding the market dynamics, it's all like experience based on the ground. And in a way, it's not formal training, but I've been doing it for 20 years, so I got my PhD in it by now. I see it as an art and a science. And the art form is about talking to people, being well prepared, knowing what questions you want to ask and what you have and what you need. But being able to sit down with someone, whether it's a resident or another lifestyle director, and get a sense of what do they want? What do they want to see? What's maybe working or not working? What are they interested in? If you have a few of those questions in mind, it's amazing how much people will tell you. And, you don't want it to quite go to a therapy session, but like I could walk into a sales office and talk to a person for 5 or 10 minutes and just get the basics, right? I can write down, what are the premiums? What are the home sales looking like? And that. But I could also spend an hour sitting down with that same person and starting to understand, like, why are people moving here? Who do you see who's very interested in the community? What's turning them away? What would you rather do differently? And so there's kind of two ways to do surveys. One of them is like a very personal, I'm sitting down with you, we're talking right now. I'm sitting down and we're just having a conversation. Or you can do something more formal where you need like very specific, actionable data. And one way I think is to be very well prepared and to have the conversation. The other way is getting to like actionable questions that are very short and easy for a resident to answer. Because nobody really wants to do a survey, but they will, either to help you out or because it's in their interest to make the community better. And so I think there's some motivation there for somebody to fill out a survey. Those are very two different types of things, but both have, I would say, equal value in the process.
One thing I know that I struggle with, and I think I would say a lot of lifestyle people struggle with, how can we capture the true value of lifestyle? Because you can't really put a number on it, right? It's so mythical. I don't know.
It's like a unicorn.
Yes. Well, I'm over here like, I want to do X, Y, and Z, but then the accounting department is like, well, all you're doing is spending money. So how can you take those surveys and create and show the value, whether it's to a resident who's like, why am I paying HOA dues at this rate? Explain to me what lifestyle is, because it is a budget line item that people really get hyper focused on.
That's a great question, Lauren.
That is a great question. That really is that's the challenge of what you're doing. It's almost like marketing, right? There's no way to say we're spending X on marketing and, for every marketing dollar, there's like a direct translation. It's so difficult to quantify that, but there's a few, I'll start large scale. There's a few large scale anecdotes that are interesting from that perspective, which is you take the master planned communities as a whole, and those big communities typically do have a lifestyle component or a lifestyle director, and you can look at those that are most successful, and the most successful master plan communities typically have like higher prices compared to the neighboring projects. They typically have more resilience in both, in a downturn or in a stagnant real estate market, because that's where people want to live. And they wind up having faster sales rates. One of the ways I think you could have a lifestyle, and this is a little bit of maybe a second or third degree level, but your residents are your best salespeople. And so the happier the residents are, the more tied in they are to the lifestyle that you're creating, the more likely they are to refer their friends and family to that community. And if you get a bunch of referrals, it's most likely lifestyle driven. And so you can quantify that. And that's at least a data point to help you on a big macro level. These master planned communities that are focused on lifestyle they're just doing things, better. They have higher sales rates. They have the higher prices and what I mentioned there as well.
And everything that you said is actually proven. Like, what you're saying, how they do better in a downturn. They do better, compared to another community that may not have lifestyle. And they do sell for more. I mean, I think it's the National Board of Realtors that had put something out like that. Don't quote me on that, but I remember reading that. And so the lifestyle aspect is something that I think as lifestyle directors, we try to quantify quite a bit because we're asked to do it. I know as a consultant, when I'm trying to explain to a developer they need lifestyle, they're like, but what kind of ROI can I expect to see if I have lifestyle? Or how do you qualify? How do you quantify that? And to your point, Chris, it is like marketing. We're put under marketing a lot of times because you can't quantify it, but that it works and that that's why you need it.
Right.
You can't expect to sell homes if you don't have marketing. Unless you're just in an area that you can't miss. You can't really, marketing is so key. And so I think that's where lifestyle falls in, is especially in today's world where lifestyle is so focused and something that is more in demand. I say you're going to have a hard time competing if you don't have lifestyle. And so I think that's a really interesting tidbit that or fact that you were talking about, is looking at the other communities and be able to compare it. And Lauren and I, we interviewed Kevin Irvin Kelly, who has a book Irreplaceable, and ever since we talked to him, I talk about how those magic moments, you can't put a price tag on that. You can't put a price tag on, two people meeting each other for the first time. Maybe it's two moms with their kids or two dads and deciding, hey, let's get together and go fishing, or let's get together and get our kids together for a play date. In these communities that you're talking about, it's the infrastructure, right? Making sure you have the proper amenities and the infrastructure, but it's also making sure that we're creating these opportunities for the activation and activating these places where we're getting the most out of it. I think that's a really key part, is being able to share with developers.
I think one thing that I find, so I was with a group of residents yesterday, and one of them literally just moved in because her friend told her how awesome it was. And then we're talking about lifestyle. She's like, I don't even know what that means. I didn't even know this was a lifestyle community, but I knew I loved it. I know my friend loves it. So, it is kind of like this unicorn situation where it's hard to describe, but you know that they value it. So it is hard to survey and like capture that, I feel like. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah, no, and I think that's what is so interesting about what you do, because that's what you do. You try to quantify that for your clients on the benefits of having a lifestyle community. And so it's just fascinating that you have such a vast background on this, number one. And number two, that we can glean so much from you about how do we, after you turn it over to us, for example, they're telling the developers like they need to have this, and we're like, thank you, because now we have a job, and so we're grateful. But how do we continue to create that message of value to the residents and to the developer as they go through the process?
Yeah, I'll give you a couple of thoughts there too. One is, if you are struggling with how to quantify it, there are ways to get close, which can be helpful. And those are the kinds of things that I'll specialize in, which is, for instance, like, what's our premium? What's our premium relative to the market? And you start looking, I'll use Pinnacle as an example, but you can look at Pinnacle and have all of those home prices and sales plotted out, and then compare those to other neighborhoods nearby. And you're going to see a difference. You're going to see a premium there. And so some of that premium is going to be the amenities, but the whole package really represents that premium, the lifestyle, everything tying together. And you can quantify that. And that's often where, developer will ask, like, well, what's the value for these certain different things? And that's one way to do it. The other aspect of the lifestyle, and I think to the point of trying to sell the developer on it, because that's what we all want to do, it makes sense for them, is, okay, so you're building this big community, you're building homes, you're building these amenities. And Monica, I think you brought it up. How do you get the most out of it? You want to maximize your investment. And in order to get the most out of it, you need to connect the people in the homes with the spaces between the homes to the amenities that are there on site that you spent a lot of money building. And that's what's going to create the value at the end of the day.
Yes. And I think that sometimes gets missed by some, is that they don't have someone like you, me, or Lauren. Sometimes they look at it, well, I built it. They can use it as they wish. They can, rent it out. It remains locked, but, when they want it, they can rent it out and we'll unlock it for them. It's like, that is not the picture you want to paint.
Right.
Why spend that much money on amenities if you're not going to have them activated on a daily basis? And free, granted, there are certain amenities that maybe require a little bit more oversight, but honestly, I don't see the point of building something and keeping your residents out of it if it's not reserved. Understand, if it's reserved, it's reserved for that party. Let me just clarify.
Right.
But if it's like even if it's like a ballroom, right? Like, set up tables and encourage people to come in and do a, work from home session together. Because all of us who work from home, we do like the opportunity to engage with real people that we can actually like pitch. If we, like you're real, like I can see you. I can sit down and have coffee and not have a screen between us. Like, there is that connection that everyone is needing. And so why not use that space that maybe you designed just as a rental for an everyday use and create those programs around it. So I guess that's one of my pet peeves, Chris, is when I see amenities just not being activated and the developer spending so much money on something, and then the intent is not there.
And so I'm going to piggyback off of that a little bit too, which is like I've gone to design charrettes. How are we going to vision this new place? And you have architects in the room, you have land planners in the room. Those guys and gals are doing such cool work because they're drawing golf courses and homes and lagoons. And I mean, just watching that process gets everybody excited. And then they'll usually put them up on an easel or in the front of the room, and everybody's really pumped up. But you want to have a lifestyle advocate there. And I think it can be somebody who's a current lifestyle director or a consultant whose experience and expertise really is lifestyle, because it's like, how do we tie all of this together? You want to be able to do that in the early stages of a development process. And the better that you do that, then like down the road, you're going to be able to maximize it. And I'm totally with you on just making sure things are open. I shouldn't say this publicly, but I will. I tour a lot of communities, and I'm constantly opening the doors of like the amenity center to try to get in to look at them. And so
Yeah.
when they're locked, it kind of bums me out too. I'm like, oh man, I want to go see what's in here, and I can't.
Yeah.
And there might be a new, you want to balance the privacy of the resident. But at the same time, if someone's curious about, oh, I just moved in, I want to go see what the fitness center looks like, and then the fitness center door is locked and you can't get in. I mean, that's frustrating. Or even if it's a prospective buyer who's maybe, within reason snooping around, you want things open and energized and activated.
Sorry, Lauren, I got to jump in right here because, because you just got something that I need to say. It's one thing, if it's access controlled, but to your point, Chris, why not have, if you're an actively selling developer community, then have something that says, you want to take a peek? While this is for resident access, please come and see us and we'd be happy to show you around. So that it's like, we want you to come in and see this, but we're also kind of protecting it for our resident, perspective. So I think you can do both, but to your point, it would be nice if you could take a peek, right? Like there is that, you're like, dang, I no longer have access. Like I thought it was pretty cool and I can't get in.
Yes. And having somebody, I mean, I just think about like, who are I don't want to even call them salespeople, but who are the people that are hosting others within the community? It could be the lifestyle director. It could be somebody, who's there at the welcome center, or even if there's a little cafe, it could be the person who's pouring coffee. But all of those people that are interacting with your residents, they create the meaning behind the community itself. Yeah. And often those are going to be the folks that interact with your residents and prospective buyers for the first time.
Yeah, I want to kind of say where you were saying lifestyle deserves a seat at the table. I love that because there is nothing more frustrating than getting to a community with an amenity and you're going, what am I going to do with this? So having a voice at the beginning, I think is just so important. And I love that developers are really diving into that now. So Chris, you've been doing it for 20 years. During that time, what is the consistent factor that really, if there is one, that makes a lifestyle community successful? Is there just like the special sauce? Is there something that you look and go, yep, they've got that, so it's going to be good?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. I mean, I think that a what makes it successful really is how well it's connected, housing to the amenities to every like the in-between spaces. And so that experience, I mean, I think there's outdoor living, there's trails, there are things that are long-term value that really haven't changed. Like one of the interesting things about, these master plan communities was, I don't know, it seemed like it was maybe 5 or 6 years ago. Everyone's like, oh, trail systems or trail networks, like they're really important. It's like we were looking at that 20 years ago in, these big resorts. So there are some things that don't change, but I think that you can think about how well, is it a multi-generational appeal? I mean, that's another good example. Are you able to serve different groups within your community at the same time or separately? So at the same time, a good example might be your farmer's market, right? Kids, adults, grandparents are all there. Like, what a wonderful way to have everybody experience something. Now, I recommended a farmer's market. Now, Lauren, you're doing one. So that's a difference. I'm just like, here, this is a good idea. Go do that. And then you're trying
Right,
to
go
figure
do
it out.
right.
Yeah, here's another full-time job.
Right.
So there are those big events that are wonderful in terms of bringing the full multi-generational experience, families together, right? And then there are also aspects of a community that are like hyper focused on one or two groups that are very important for them. So I think about like a great fitness experience or a spa experience in a resort. Not everybody's going to get a massage, but those who, value the spa are valuing it really highly. Those who are going to the fitness center in the morning before their kids wake up are valuing that really highly. Or, the Rotary Club that meets in your event space on a Friday morning or something. I mean, there's groups from every walk of life or lifespan that are, if those different groups are all using your community in different ways, I think that you've hit on something that's the special sauce because you've got, parks you've got a school. I mean, those are all places where people connect. And they're kind of subtle too. Like you don't have to force somebody to talk to somebody else at a baseball game, right? At like their
Right.
kid's little league game, because it's going to happen naturally. So you get those like great natural interactions between people that I think can make a big difference in like just joining them together.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so at Pinnacle, we have currently, I mean, it's still obviously under development, but two clubhouses with pools. But those clubhouses are, meeting rooms where, like, we had the Family Fun Collective club meeting yesterday. And then we have a ton of pocket parks, but then we also have a city park right in the middle of it. And I forget how many acres it is, but it's huge. I mean, it's got tons of softball fields, soccer fields, community garden, bike parks, skate parks, all the things. So I think that's a pretty cool feature to have right in the middle of our neighborhood, along with a fire station. And then kind of across the way there, we have our amphitheater, which is where we have our farmers market and the concert series and all kinds of things. We're planning Corbin Maxey, who is a local celebrity with all of his reptiles and the big snakes and stuff. So that'll be fun to have him out this year. And then right next to it, we have the public library that we partner with a lot. So all of that is kind of bringing everybody out in their own ways. And as you said, there's the school there too. So, and then we have the Pinnacle Marketplace coming, which will have kind of the bigger box store shopping stuff right down the way. And so it's bringing the convenience to our residents so that they can live their life to their fullest within the neighborhood.
All right. So on that then, Lauren, thank you for explaining that. So Chris, did you consult on this project then? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, I didn't. I've worked with Brighton in the past, and it was one of those that they had underway when I was there doing some other study work for Brighton.
Okay.
But it was such a good example of what you can do when you're creating a multi-generational community and the various aspects of it from, the school, you have kids there, right? And you're like, parents are just kind of like forced. I have little kids. It's like they walk into my neighbor's yard. I meet my neighbors for the first time.
Yeah.
It's like kids are those kinds of connectors.
Yes, they're
The
amazing.
parks are another example. I was telling Lauren, if you're sitting down watching your little kid's baseball game, you're going to probably meet the parent next to you. And you don't have to force that interaction. It's a natural interaction. And those are the kinds of things that make those communities special. It has a fire station. So when they're doing their calendar shoot, you can have a group of neighbors out there.
Oh, I thought you were going to
interested
say.
in that.
I thought you were going to say firemen. You can have a group of firemen, but I
Well,
was like, oh,
Well, that too.
I am moving in. Let's go. Sorry.
Yeah, you might find the cluster next to the fire station of like apartments people are willing to rent with views out to the
To the fire station.
front of the
Yes.
garage. Yeah.
Now that is a marketing angle right there, by the way.
It sure is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've studied premiums and view premiums and quantified that. That would be a new one, but I'm not opposed to trying to figure it out.
You know.
I would love to see that study.
Yeah. Let's do the fire station, the Pinnacle Calendar fire station shoot.
You know what? I had an event idea the other day that came up. Pints and ponytails. Teaching dads how to do their daughter's
I
hair.
love that.
Is
That's
that
so
not
cute.
the most fun idea? I have so many fun ideas for Pinnacle. Pinnacle Pints and Ponytails. Anyway.
I love it.
Yeah, no, Pinnacle's great. And one thing that Chris kind of said about multi-generational that I didn't say is that we will have a 55 and up within our Pinnacle community.
Okay.
So that'll be gated and they'll have their own clubhouse. But of course, they'll be able to take advantage of some of the bigger lifestyle stuff like the farmer's market and things. So it's really cool the way Brighton sets it up.
Definitely.
Lets
I love
me
it.
play with it.
I love it. That's great. Sorry, I'm stuck on the fireman. And Chris, I'm so sorry. I don't know where I went with that, but I did. So
I was actually there with.
okay.
I mean,
Oh man.
Okay.
Anyway,
So on that note, or not on that note anymore.
moving forward.
Moving forward. So, with your, so do you ever go in, obviously you go into resorts, right? And you kind of help them reimagine or look at the market, what the market is saying for the resort area. Is that correct? Like you're getting information.
Yeah, and what I'll do is in the similar vein to my wonderful experience in Hawaii that kind of got me going and consulting for the next 20 years, was that I will look at what the current, if it's a place that's undeveloped or they're building a new phase, what the right program is for that from both a lifestyle perspective, product perspective, and then, of course, what will it sell for and how fast will it sell? That's what the developers want to know. And in doing that kind of research, I'll go to, the comps, the nearby communities that offer or resorts that offer something similar or some insight into what the right program is. So part of that is resort analysis. And then the other part that I've been doing too is bringing that into the primary home space. So master plan communities. I, over the past 10 years, did a ton of work on master planned communities with answering a lot of the same questions, but looking at it from more of a primary housing perspective, people who are living there every day.
Oh, I love that. One thing that you said, and then I'm going to toss it to Lauren, but one thing that you said earlier is about how kids are connectors. And I think that is so important for our lifestyle directors just to keep remembering that
Kids and dogs.
kids and dogs, they are magic connectors. And so, when you're doing these community events, look for opportunities for these parents to be able to connect, with one another. It doesn't have to be these really large community events, but you can do like a story time. And because everyone loves their child and they love their kids and they want their kids to be happy. And let's face it, part of that is having a friend. and friends. And so when you, and also for moms and dads, we also want to have friends. And so the kids can not only connect with one another because they don't have that filter yet. They're just like, "Hi, I'm Johnny. You want to be my friend?" And then, yeah, I'm Susie, whatever. And then they just start talking, and then it really allows the parents to have that barrier breakdown. That as we grow older, we kind of get a little bit more kind of jaded, maybe, and not as comfortable speaking with each other. And it really allows us to kind of break down those barriers and say, oh, it seems like they really, like each other. They're having fun. Let's get together for a play date. And then the families start having these great connections that started from either the dogs playing together or the kids. And so I'm coming from this is don't forget that it's not just in the really big events that are great. It's sometimes in these smaller moments where they can have these opportunities to really get to know each other on a more personal level and see their kids interact and have those magic moments happen. So, sorry.
Yeah, that's something to think about too, which is like, and this is in my mind, when I hear the word event, I almost always think of something really big.
Exactly.
And it doesn't have to be that way. And in fact, those little events, they might not appeal to everybody. A little story time. Maybe it's, 10 kids sitting there on a Saturday morning or sometime in the summer, or swim lessons or something that's small, but it's a way for the kids to interact. They'll have a neighborhood friend, which is great. And then us parents are kind of like sitting on the sidelines watching these interactions. We're busy. We've got jobs and we've got kids stuff all the time. And, we're just trying to like get through the day. But if that experience becomes enjoyable for us as parents, able to talk to the parent, that's standing next to us, that also is going through, like, kids are just the great equalizers and the great connectors.
They are.
And the same with pets as well. So I think those are interesting and good, valuable examples for, doing something small that's going to make a difference for people.
And I think that's where like having sports fields is a really great thing if you have the room for it, because people are going to get their kids in like soccer naturally. I think that's a rite of passage for every little kid, and no one wants to have to leave their community for that. All right. And that's when a lot of these opportunities to connect can happen. And lifestyle directors, that doesn't mean you have to do it. It means that you can find a company to do it for you, and you have a cost sharing split with them. So I just think that is something I think is really important. We talk about creating the events and talking to the residents all the time on this podcast, but I think really honing in on the kids too is a really important aspect.
Yeah, I would think for going on the other side of the spectrum, because I think there's an important multi-generational component to communities. And Lauren, you mentioned 55 plus coming into Pinnacle, is the events that would all of a sudden, like, my kids are out of the house, I have a lot of time, maybe too much time, to think and reflect. What am I going to do? Right. And so there's an opportunity there to do something where it builds meaning in somebody's life and builds connections from the opposite end of the spectrum.
Agreed.
That might look a lot different from, the kids out in the ball fields, although the grandparents will probably be going to those games too. Are there volunteer groups, ways for those people that have more time where the kids are out of the house, ways for them to connect with each other? And I'll tell you, if the residents in like it relates to RV parks, campgrounds, 55 plus communities where retirees interact with each other. Talk about your best salespeople. And on the other side of that, if they're unhappy, they'll let you know it too. But if you've got happy resident retirees, they are going to tell everybody about how great it is to live in a community.
Absolutely are. They are giving tours nonstop in our 55 and ups. I love them.
What is interesting is kind of the full circle of this conversation, how we started with you talking about, resorts and how you got started. And when I think of resort living, the resort lifestyle, I really, while it while we do it in our master plan communities quite a bit, I think it's best seen in a 55 and older community. And the reason I say that is because typically 55 and olders, or those who are closer to retirement or are retired, they have more time to live the resort lifestyle, meaning you have to have a lot more programming and planning going on throughout the day, throughout the week. It can't just be a couple events a month. Like, they're going to be bored. And so that resort lifestyle is key, you know, how to do a massage, come to this today, how to make a margarita, come to this afternoon. Like, you have to have that stacking of programming to really get the 55 and older community together and connected. So I think it's kind of this full circle. We started about how you started, and then ending with the resort style community really playing a factor in your 55 and olders.
That's so true. And if there's something that I would caution about relative to resorts, is that it does tend to be one of those words that gets used a lot, and it's lost some of its meaning within the greater context of communities, because it seems like now every master plan community is a resort style community, resort style living. It's probably overdone, and it probably doesn't really reflect what's happening on the ground.
Right.
And that's so we don't need that for, you know, your busy parents, right? They're like, okay, the pool might be for swim lessons and the kids, but I'm not sitting there relaxing, reading a book while they're off doing something else. Maybe that happens, and that's wonderful, but that's not their day-to-day experience. And so from like a resort programming experience, that does translate better to, you know, a retirement community or something where people are phasing into that in their lives.
All right. You all ready? I have rapid fire questions to wrap it up.
Love it. Go. It's all for you.
Chris.
I know. Chris, it's all directed at you, not me.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So
Why don't, how about rapid fire question number 1? We'll see who can pronounce my last name after an hour.
Dorociak.
Hey, nailed it. Okay.
Rapid fire questions for Chris. What is the most overrated amenity?
Ooh, that's such a good one. Overrated.
This is like not a rapid fire question, Laura. This is
Yeah,
tough.
this is sort of a slow burn. Yeah.
He's like,
You
skip.
know,
Next.
Wouldn't you say, Chris, wouldn't you say it depends on the community based on your market research?
I do. Yeah, like, you know, you can think of the really big ones that everyone thinks they need and maybe come up with something based on the market where they really don't. I mean, it could it could even come down to your clubhouse is gigantic and doesn't need to be that big, right? So one thing I've seen massive clubhouses where the better use of the space would be, okay, can we phase it as the community grows? Or can we have indoor outdoor space or flexible space outside? So one overrated, let's see, here's my slow answer. An overrated amenity could be a clubhouse that's just too big for the first phase of the project.
I'm going to take that and also say the most underrated amenity is indoor outdoor space.
Agreed. I'll second that. And I will also say that a large clubhouse, I can plan the mess out of that. Give it to me. Give me that space. But I get it from a developer standpoint. I'm just, from a lifestyle standpoint, Lauren and I are like, ooh, we got places to be.
Space. Yes. We can do things.
Yeah. And what you want to do, I think one thing that happens sometimes, people are getting better at this, but you want space that's flexible. And so can you make sure that your clubhouse can be used for different types of events, different sized groups? How will it work for, you know,
Agreed.
You don't want to build your church for Easter Sunday. Like, you got to figure out what the right size is most of the time. And then how can you do a big event with that space? So I think, and this is where it goes back to our design charrette, right? Like, the architect might have an idea of what a great clubhouse would be. The lifestyle director should be part of that conversation. They're going to be able to understand how that's programmed.
Yeah, there's a saying from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. How are you going to program it? You know, how versatile is it going to be from morning to night? And so that's a really good point, Chris.
Okay. Back to rapid fire.
Slow. Instead of rapid fire, we're not doing slow burn. We're doing rapid fire.
We're going to
Okay.
try rapid. Just don't think, just answer. Okay. Best lifestyle advice you've ever heard.
I would say the best is just keep it simple and connect people together.
Your favorite project. I thought he was
Let's
going to
see.
come out quick with Hawaii.
I'm gonna say my favorite one really was it from a resort perspective. Kuala is just great. Like the one that I mentioned on the. I think anybody who goes to Hawaii should go there and check it out.
Or just go to Hawaii in general. I love
Yeah.
Hawaii. Don't think, just answer. What is your favorite movie or book?
Okay, I'll go with Freakonomics because it came out when I was in college and grad school, and I just thought it was fun that for the first time economists were cool. And people,
I love that.
and so that was fun. That was good.
What is one surprise fun fact about you?
You know, I'd say that I'm you can't see it on the screen here, but I'm 6'4", so that's kind of a fun fact if I'm sitting down. The downside of that is that it used to be helpful to be tall, and now with light bulbs that don't burn out, I don't have much use for the height.
No
I did
perks.
I did run hurdles, so I'll count that as like a tall person thing.
Yeah.
And I also love skiing and sailboats, which kind of, I don't know if being tall helps much other than getting hit in the head with the boom more often. So probably not for sailing. But I do love sailing here. I'm in San Diego. And then I lived in Idaho. I guess that's a fun fact. And I skied a lot there. I love the outdoors. And I need to go visit again.
What's your favorite place to go skiing?
I like Utah. I really like Deer Valley. And I'm going to throw a little local plug into Bogus Basin.
Oh, yeah.
Next to right next to Boise, 45-minute drive up the hill. I have gone there a ton, and I love that as a mountain.
My husband ski patrols up there on the weekends, and my daughter is currently learning to ski up there.
Love it.
I know. I have this adorable video of her skiing last weekend. It's just the cutest. She's 4 years old and just killing it. All right.
I love that.
Yes, I know. That's
Me too.
to not be afraid to fall and not hurt when it falls.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're like indestructible at that age for the most
Yes.
part too.
Yeah, I love it.
So I took my daughter skiing here at Big Bear, which is close by us, relatively speaking. And I had to lie about her age. It was like 5 and up, and she was 4. And I'm like, no,
Aw.
kind of big enough.
You can do this.
Yeah. So
I
I'll always
think it's-
be happy about getting her.
I think it's funny how us parents, we're like, we teach our kids not to lie, but we will be the first to lie to get them into something.
You're not wrong.
I know, because I did it.
Or to get them to eat something.
Yeah,
Right.
I've done it. So I think it's kind of funny. Don't lie, but say you're 6. Say you're 5. Mommy, I'm not. Yes, you are. Just go with
You
it.
are
Yeah, you're
today.
5. You're 5 today.
Okay, last one. We'll finish this sentence. Life is too short to.
Be bored.
Love it.
Ooh,
I
like
think
that one.
there's something about embracing the boredom, like go figure out something to do, and just go explore, go outside, look for things that are interesting. And lucky for us, we get to look at interesting things and how people live and all of those fascinating questions.
I love it.
Yeah, life is too short to be bored.
Yeah, I agree with that. I love that. Well, Chris, thank you so much for sharing your time with us today.
Yes, thank you so much.
You're so welcome. This was fun. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, that's all we've got. And next week we'll catch up with you guys from Orlando at the Builder Show and Nationals
Yes, Lauren and I are going to meet for the first time in
in
person.
person.
We've never met in person.
Believe it or not, we've
Wow.
never met in person.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She's a
that's
tech-
gonna be
but I feel like she's my best friend already.
I hope we like.
I'm imagining that you're gonna find like when you see each other, it's just everything is gonna move in slow motion. There will be like music playing and lights coming down.
Just running and hugging and
Yeah, there will be wind blowing in your hair in opposite directions somehow.
Yeah,
oh yes,
that'll be fun.
we should record our meeting.
I know.
Actually.
Yeah, good idea.
It'd be fun. Good idea, Chris.
Like it.
Yeah, you're welcome. That's what we consultants do is throw ideas out there.
See if it sticks.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you again, and we will chat with you guys next week. And Monica, I will see you Sunday.
Yes, you will. Looking forward to it.
Yay!
Thanks, Chris.
All right.
Bye.